Samir stood silently in front of the old mansion. The huge iron gate was locked, covered with rust and spider webs. It was the same mansion where he had spent his childhood with his sister, 10 long years ago. Now it looked empty and sad. The big windows were dusty and some glass panes were broken. The walls had cracks and the garden was overgrown with wild grass and weeds. The mansion was not the warm home he once knew. It was cold and lifeless. Samir's heart beat fast. So many memories came rushing back. He remembered the laughter of his sister Aisha playing in the garden. He remembered the smell of fresh flowers his mother used to plant near the front door. But along with the sweet memories came a deep sadness and fear. 10 years ago, Samir had left this place without saying goodbye. He had never returned since then. Why had he left? And why was he standing here now? The years had changed Samir. He was no longer a boy. He was now a successful millionaire. His clothes were expensive, his watch glittered in the sunlight, and his car was parked a little distance away. But none of that mattered now. What mattered was the silence around this empty mansion. What mattered was the mystery that still hung in the air. Samir took a deep breath and pushed the heavy gate. It creaked loudly, breaking the silence. He stepped inside the overgrown garden. The weeds brushed against his shoes, and the wind whispered through the broken trees. He walked slowly toward the front door. His steps echoed in the empty space. The front door was big and made of old, dark wood. Samir's hand trembled as he reached out to open it. The door gave way with a loud creak. Inside, the air was thick with dust. Sunlight came through the broken windows, creating strange patterns on the floor. The mansion was silent except for the faint sound of Samir's footsteps. He looked around at the empty rooms. The wallpaper was peeling off the walls, and the furniture was covered with white sheets. The old chandelier hung crooked from the ceiling. It all looked like a house frozen in time. Samir felt a cold chill run down his spine. He remembered how happy this place once was. But now, it was like a ghost house. He was not sure if he should be scared or sad. He tried to push his fears away and looked for signs of life. Then suddenly he heard it. A soft, very faint sound. It was almost like a whisper. Samir stopped. His heart jumped. He listened carefully. Was someone there? He called out softly. "Hello, is someone here?" No answer. Only silence. The silence was thick and heavy. Then the sound came again. A soft creaking noise, like a door moving slowly. Samir's eyes widened. He moved toward the sound. Step by step, he walked through the long hallway. The floorboards creaked under his feet. The walls seemed to close in around him. He reached the end of the hallway, where an old door stood half open. The door moved slightly as if pushed by the wind. Samir reached out and pushed the door open. The room was dark, but in the corner he saw something moving. A shadow. His breath caught in his throat. "Who's there?" he asked, his voice shaking. No answer. The shadow disappeared quickly. Samir stepped inside the room. It was the old library, filled with dusty books and broken shelves. He looked around but saw no one. His heart was pounding. Was he imagining things? He walked to the window and looked outside. The garden was empty. No one was there. Samir shook his head. Maybe it was just the wind, or his own mind playing tricks. He decided to explore the mansion more. He wanted to find out what had happened during these 10 years. Why was this house left empty? Why had his sister disappeared? As he moved deeper into the mansion, his mind filled with questions. Was his sister still alive? Why did no one come back to this house? Suddenly his phone rang. He jumped in surprise. It was a call from an unknown number. He answered quickly. "Hello?" A calm but serious voice said, "Samir, you should leave the mansion. It is not safe here." Samir frowned. "Who is this? How do you know I am here?" The voice replied, "Some things are better left alone. Be careful." The line went dead. Samir's hands shook. He looked around nervously. Who was warning him and why? He took a deep breath and decided not to leave. He wanted to find the truth. Samir sat down on an old chair. His eyes wandered over the dusty room. He thought about his sister, about the happy days they had shared. He promised himself he would find her and solve the mystery. Suddenly, from somewhere deep inside the mansion, a soft sound came again. It was a faint whisper, almost like someone calling his name. Samir. His heart jumped. Was this real? Was someone really there? Samir stood up slowly, his eyes scanning the shadows. He moved toward the voice, every step filled with hope and fear. The mansion was full of secrets, and Samir was ready to uncover them. Samir's heart raced as he followed the soft voice calling his name. The mansion was dark, and every step he took echoed loudly through the empty halls. He tried to see who was calling, but the shadows seemed to move and twist, hiding everything from his eyes. He reached a door at the end of the corridor. It was old and heavy, with thick dust covering its surface. The voice had stopped now. Silence returned, deeper than before. Samir slowly opened the door. The hinges creaked loudly, breaking the quiet. Inside, he saw an old room with faded wallpaper and broken furniture. It looked like no one had been there for years. In the middle of the room, there was a small table with an old photo frame lying face down. Samir picked it up carefully. He wiped the dust off and saw a picture of a young girl smiling brightly. It was his sister, Aisha. He felt a sudden rush of emotions. Love, sadness, and hope all mixed inside him. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps came from upstairs. Samir froze. Someone was definitely inside the mansion with him. He whispered, "Who's there?" No answer. He moved quietly toward the staircase. The steps were broken and covered with dust, but he climbed carefully, following the sound. As he reached the top floor, he saw a faint light coming from under a door at the end of the hallway. His hands trembled as he pushed the door open. Inside was a small, dimly lit room. There, sitting on an old chair, was a frail woman wrapped in a shawl. Her eyes were tired but full of warmth. "Samir," she whispered softly. It was Aisha. Samir could hardly believe his eyes. His sister, who he thought was lost forever, was alive. He ran to her and held her hand tightly. "Where have you been? Why did you leave?" Aisha looked away, tears falling down her cheeks. "It was not safe here, Samir. I had to hide. There are secrets in this house, dark secrets that can destroy us." Samir felt his heart sink. He wanted to know everything. "Tell me, Aisha. I'm here now. We will face it together." Aisha nodded slowly and began to tell her story. 10 years ago, their family was attacked by someone jealous of their wealth. Their father was taken away, and their mother became very sick. To protect Samir and herself, Aisha decided to hide in the mansion, away from the danger. "But why didn't you tell me?" Samir asked. "I was scared. I thought if I called you, they would find me. I wanted to keep you safe." Samir held her hand tighter. "We will fix this, Aisha, I promise." Suddenly, a loud noise came from downstairs. It sounded like someone was breaking in. Samir stood up quickly. "We are not alone," he said. Aisha looked frightened. Samir moved toward the door. "Stay here. I will check." He went downstairs carefully, but the house was empty. The front door was wide open, swinging in the wind. Samir closed the door firmly. Someone was trying to scare them. He knew this was just the beginning. The mansion held many secrets and danger was close. Samir returned to Aisha's room. "We need to find out who wants to hurt us," he said. Aisha nodded. Together they decided to search the house for clues. In the old study room, they found a hidden drawer in the desk. Inside, there were letters and photos revealing the family's enemies. One name kept appearing, Mr. Kapoor, a man who once worked with their father but had turned against them. Samir felt anger and determination. "We will confront him." "He," said. Aisha smiled weakly. For the first time in years, hope returned to the old mansion. Samir and Aisha sat quietly in the dim room, surrounded by the old papers and photographs they had found. The secrets of their family were slowly unfolding, but danger was near. Outside, behind the tall trees surrounding the mansion, a dark figure watched their every move. The stranger's eyes were sharp, cold like ice. He had been waiting for this moment for years. He knew the mansion held something valuable, something that belonged to him. Inside, Samir looked at the letters carefully. They were written by their father, warning about Mr. Kapoor's greed and betrayal. The letters told of stolen money, threats, and lies. Their family had been destroyed because of him. Aisha's hands trembled as she read a letter addressed to her. It spoke about a secret safe hidden inside the mansion. The safe held papers that could bring justice to their family. Samir stood up determinedly. "We need to find this safe, Aisha. It's our only chance." Aisha nodded, wiping tears from her eyes. "But we must be careful. Someone is watching us." The old mansion suddenly felt even colder and darker. Samir and Aisha began their search. They looked behind bookshelves, under floorboards, and inside old cupboards. Hours passed and they found nothing. Just as Samir was about to give up, Aisha noticed a loose brick near the fireplace. She pushed it, and to their surprise, a hidden compartment opened. Inside was a small metal box. Samir's hands shook as he opened it. Inside were papers, photos, and a key. "These must be the documents," he said softly. Suddenly, the room's window shattered with a loud bang. Both jumped in fear. The stranger from outside had broken in. He entered the room with a cruel smile. "Looking for this?" he sneered, holding a small case. Samir stepped forward protectively. "Who are you? What do you want?" The stranger laughed. "I am the one who ruined your family, and now I will make sure you never get justice." Aisha clung to Samir, scared but brave. Samir's mind raced. He needed a plan. The stranger moved closer, but before he could grab the papers, Samir threw a chair at him. The man stumbled, and Samir grabbed the case and ran toward the stairs. "Run!" "Isha!" Samir shouted. They rushed through the mansion, heart pounding as the stranger chased them. The old house creaked and groaned with every step. At the front door, Samir pushed Aisha outside and locked the door behind her. "I will stop him," he said, determined. Aisha watched, her eyes full of worry, as Samir faced the stranger alone. Fierce struggle began. Samir fought hard, using everything he had learned from years of hardship. Finally, with one strong move, he pushed the stranger away. The man fell to the ground, defeated but still dangerous. Sirens wailed in the distance. Neighbors must have heard the noise and called the police. The stranger's face twisted in anger and fear. Samir stood tall, holding the papers and the key tightly. "You will not win," Samir said firmly. The police arrived and arrested the stranger. Aisha came out, running to Samir's side. "We are safe now," Samir said softly. But the night was far from over. They still had to unlock the safe and uncover the full truth about their family. Samir and Aisha sat quietly in the old mansion's dusty room. The papers and photographs they had found told a story of betrayal and pain. Their family's past was dark, but it held the key to their future. Outside, hidden behind thick trees, a shadowy figure watched the house closely. He had been waiting for years. He wanted the secret that the mansion held, something that belonged only to him. Inside, Samir carefully read the letters written by their father. The letters told about Mr. Kapoor, a man who had tricked their family and stolen their money. The letters spoke of threats and lies that destroyed their lives. Isha's hands trembled as she read a letter meant for her. It spoke of a secret safe hidden inside the mansion. This safe held papers that could bring justice to their family and clear their name. Samir looked at Aisha and said, "We have to find that safe. It's our only hope." Aisha nodded, though she was scared. "But we must be careful. Someone is watching us." The mansion suddenly felt colder, darker. They began searching the mansion room by room. They looked behind bookshelves, under floorboards, and inside cupboards. Hours passed, but they found nothing. Just when Samir was about to lose hope, Aisha spotted a loose brick near the fireplace. She pushed it gently. Suddenly, a small hidden compartment opened. Inside was a metal box. Samir's hands shook as he opened it. Inside were old documents, photographs, and a small key. "These must be the papers our father wrote about," Samir whispered. Suddenly, the silence was broken by the crash of a window shattering. The stranger had broken in. He stepped into the room, his smile cruel. "Looking for this?" he sneered, holding a small case. Samir stood in front of Aisha protectively. "Who are you? What do you want?" The stranger laughed coldly. "I'm the one who ruined your family, and now I will make sure you never get your revenge." Aisha held on to Samir tightly, scared but brave. Samir's mind raced. He had to. "Think fast." The stranger moved closer, but Samir quickly threw a chair at him. The man stumbled. Samir grabbed the case and ran toward the stairs. "Run, Aisha!" Samir shouted. They rushed through the creaking mansion as the stranger followed. The house groaned under their feet. At the front door, Samir pushed Aisha outside and locked the door behind her. "I will stop him," Samir said, full of courage. Aisha watched nervously as Samir faced the stranger alone. They fought fiercely. Samir used all his strength and will. Finally, with one strong push, he knocked the stranger to the floor. The man was angry but defeated. In the distance, sirens sounded. Neighbors had called the police after hearing the noise. Samir held the papers and the key tightly. "You will not win," Samir said firmly. The police arrived and arrested the stranger. Aisha ran to Samir's side. "We are safe now," Samir said softly. But the real challenge was still ahead. They had to open the safe and find out the truth about their family. The next morning, Samir and Aisha stood before the old, rusty safe hidden behind a large painting in the mansion's study room. The safe was covered in dust and spider webs. It looked like it had not been opened for many years. Samir held the small key they found in the metal box. His hands shook a little, but he took a deep breath and slowly put the key in the lock. The lock clicked open with a loud sound that echoed through the silent room. Inside the safe were thick files, old letters, and a small locked box. Samir carefully took out the papers. As he read through them, his eyes grew wide with surprise. "These papers. They show proof that our family was cheated out of millions by Mr. Kapoor," Samir said, his voice full of hope. Aisha looked at the letters and photographs. She saw her father's handwriting and the names of many people involved in the betrayal. It was all written down clearly. "But what is in that small, locked box?" Aisha asked, pointing to the little box inside the safe. Samir shook his head. "I don't know, but it might be important." They tried to open the small box, but it was locked with a combination. There was no key or hint nearby. While they were trying to figure out the combination, Samir's phone rang. It was a call from a stranger. "Mr. Samir Kapoor, I know what you found in that mansion," the voice said coldly. "If you want to live, leave the mansion and forget everything." Samir's heart pounded. He looked at Aisha and said, "We cannot give up now. This is the truth about our family. We must fight." Aisha nodded, her eyes full of determination. They decided to stay in the mansion for the time being and start looking for clues to open the locked box. They searched every room carefully. In the old library, behind a loose book, they found a small note. The note had a code written on it, 5297. Samir and Aisha rushed back to the study and tried the code on the locked box. Click. The box opened slowly. Inside was a small, old diary with a leather cover. Samir opened it and began to read. The diary belonged to their father. It told the story of how Mr. Kapoor had tricked their family, stolen their money, and forced them to leave their home. The diary also revealed a secret. Their father had hidden one last document, a paper that could prove everything and bring justice. But the paper was missing from the diary. Suddenly, the lights in the mansion flickered, and the room grew cold. A shadow moved outside the window. Samir and Aisha looked at each other, knowing the danger was not over yet. Samir and Aisha sat quietly in the dim study, their eyes fixed on the old diary. The cold wind outside made the broken windows rattle, and shadows danced on the walls. They both knew the danger was near. Someone was watching them. Samir flipped through the diary pages again. Their father had written about a secret hiding place where he kept the last, most important document. It was a paper that could prove the truth about the family's stolen fortune and bring justice. The last page says the document is hidden, where the family's history sleeps, Aisha said, her voice soft but full of hope. Family's history, Samir whispered. That must mean the old photo room in the basement. The mansion's basement was a dark, dusty place filled with old pictures and memories of better days. They grabbed a flashlight and carefully made their way down the creaky wooden stairs. The air was cold and smelled of dust and old wood. As they walked among the faded photographs hanging crooked on the walls, Aisha stopped in front of a large, old wooden chest. "This must be it," she said. Samir tried to open the chest, but it was locked with a heavy iron padlock. "Wait," Aisha said, pointing to a faded family portrait on the wall. "Look closely at his hand." Samir looked carefully. Their father's hand was pointing to a small crack in the wall behind the chest. "Maybe the document is hidden there," Samir said, his heart racing. They pushed the chest aside and found a small, hidden compartment in the wall. Inside was an envelope, old and yellow with age. Samir opened the envelope slowly. Inside was a paper, the missing document. It was a signed contract that proved Mr. Kapoor had stolen their family's money and property. "This is it," Samir said, tears in his eyes. "We have proof." Suddenly, a loud noise came from the mansion's front door. Someone was trying to break in. "We don't have much time," Aisha whispered. They grabbed the document and ran up the stairs. The door crashed open. 2 men stepped inside, their faces hard and angry. "You shouldn't have come back here," one of the men growled. Samir stood in front of Aisha protectively. "We only want justice." One of the men lunged towards Samir. Aisha screamed, but just then the sound of police sirens filled the air. The men froze. "Police!" Aisha shouted. The men tried to escape, but the police arrived quickly. They arrested the men and took them away. Samir and Aisha stood outside, holding the important document tightly. "We did it," Aisha said, her voice trembling with relief. "Yes," Samir smiled. "The truth will finally come out." Samir and Aisha felt a wave of relief as the police took the bad men away. But they knew their journey was far from over. The truth was out, but now they had to face a new battle, to prove the document was real and to get their family's name back. Back in the mansion, Samir looked at the old walls, imagining how bright this place had been once. "We have to go to court," he said. "This paper is our only hope." Aisha nodded. "Our father trusted this document to us. We must fight for him." The next day, they met with their lawyer, a kind woman named Mrs. Khan. She carefully examined the document and told them it was strong proof. But the other side would not give up easily. "Mr. Kapoor's people will try to destroy your reputation," Mrs. Khan warned. "You must be ready." Samir and Aisha felt the weight of the challenge ahead. They began preparing, collecting more evidence, and telling their story to trusted friends. Meanwhile, the news of the stolen fortune and the secret document spread through the city. People started to wonder about the truth behind the Kapoor family's wealth. One afternoon, Samir received a phone call from an unknown number. "Don't think you can win this fight," a harsh voice warned. "Drop the case or you'll regret it." Samir's hands trembled, but he didn't back down. "We will fight until the end." Aisha sat beside him, holding his hand. "We are stronger together." The court days arrived, full of tension and nerves. Mr. Kapoor's lawyers tried to tear down Samir and Aisha's story, but the hidden document and their courage stood firm. After long hours of arguments, the judge finally made a decision. "You have proven the truth," the judge said. "The stolen property and money must be returned to the rightful heirs." Samir and Aisha, tears filled their eyes as justice was served. Outside the courthouse, a crowd cheered. Friends and strangers came forward to support them. Samir looked at Aisha and smiled. "We did it, for our father, for our family." But deep inside, Samir knew there was still one more thing to do. To rebuild the home and life they had lost. Samir and Aisha stood in front of the old mansion. The sun was setting, casting golden light on the broken walls and cracked windows. It looked tired and sad, but to them, it was full of hope. "Now we can fix everything," Aisha said softly. Samir nodded. "This house holds our family's memories. We will bring it back to life." They started by cleaning the rooms, clearing out dust and broken furniture. Neighbors came to help. Slowly, the mansion began to look alive again. One day, a group of children from the neighborhood knocked on the door. "Can we play here?" they asked. A smile spread across Aisha's face. "Yes, this will be a place for everyone." Samir felt a warmth he hadn't felt in years. The mansion was not just a building. It was a symbol of hope, love, and new beginnings. As weeks passed, they found old family photos and letters hidden in a drawer. They read stories of their parents' dreams and struggles. "We will not let their sacrifices go in vain," Samir said. One evening, Mr. Kapoor, the man who had tried to steal their family fortune, was seen leaving the city quietly. His power was broken. Samir and Aisha finally felt peace. They knew the road had been hard, but their family was together again. The mansion was filled with laughter, joy, and light. Samir held Aisha's hand and whispered, "This is just the beginning."